அறிவேதான் தெய்வம் என்றார் தாயுமான, அகத்துதான் மெய்ப்பொன்று எடுத்துக்காட்டி அறிவுதனை அறிவித்தார் திருவள்ளுவர். அவ்வறிவினை அறிவதற்கு முறைகள் சொன்னார் அறிஞர் திருமூலர். அவ்வறிவில் ஆழ்ந்த ஆனந்த கவியாத்தார் ராமணி. அறிவில் அறிவாய் நிலைத்து அறம்பகுத்தோர் அதை வாழ்ந்து காட்டியோ நினைவு கூறுவோம். எல்லாம் வல்ல எங்கும் நீக்கமற நிறைந்திருக்கின்ற பரம்பொருளை வணங்கி 8வது சர்வதேச தொடர் 21 நாள் நிகழ்விலே இன்றைய தினம் உலகம் முழுவதும் சர்வதேச யோகா தின நிகழ்வு நடைபெற்று கொண்டிருக்கின்ற வேளையிலே இன்றைய 21ஆம் நாள் நிகழ்ச்சியிலே மிக சிறப்பாக துவங்கி இருக்கின்ற இந்த நிகழ்விலே இன்றைய தினம் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை நடத்தி கொண்டிருக்கின்ற இந்தியன் யோகா அசோசியேஷன் தமிழ்நாடு சாப்டர், மாஹீர் கவர்மெண்ட் ஆர்ட்ஸ் காலேஜ் பரமக்குடி, தமிழ்நாடு ப்ரொஃபஷனல் குவாலிஃபைடு ரிஜிஸ்டர்ட் யோகா டீச்சர் வெல்ஃபேர் அசோசியேஷன், ராமநாதபுரம் அண்ட் ஈரோடு, ஆரோக்கிய ஆனந்த யோகா சென்டர் அண்ட் அவேர்னஸ் ஸ்கூல் ஆஃப் யோகா, அக்ரி, ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் ரிசர்ச் அண்ட் ட்ரைனிங் ஃபவுண்டேஷன் இணைந்து நடத்தக்கூடிய இந்த நிகழ்விலே இன்றைய தினம் மிக சிறப்பாக நமக்கு உரையாற்றுவதற்காக வருகை புரிந்திருக்கின்ற நம்முடைய மரியாதைக்கும் போற்றுதலுக்கும் உரிய டாக்டர் மாதவன் ஐயா அவர்களை இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு இருகரம் கூப்பி வருக வருக என வரவேற்கிறோம். டாக்டர் மாதவன் ஐயாவை பொறுத்தளவு உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் தெரிந்ததுதான். தான் கற்றுக்கொண்ட விஷயத்தை இந்த சமுதாயத்திற்கு பயன்பட வேண்டும் என்ற அடிப்படையிலே அவர்கள் கரூரிலே ஒரு விவேகானந்தா இன்ஸ்டிடியூட் ஆஃப் யோகா தெரப்பி என்ற ஒரு சிகிச்சை மையத்தை ஏற்படுத்தி அதனுடைய பல மையங்களை நம்முடைய இந்தியா மட்டுமல்லாது பல்வேறு நாடுகளிலே அவர்கள் சென்று பயிற்சி அளித்துக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றார்கள். கரூரிலே ஒரு மிகப்பெரிய யோகா மையம் இயங்கி வருகின்றது. அதே போல் அவர்கள் வெளியிட்டிருக்கின்ற புத்தகங்களை எல்லாம் இந்த காப்பிரைட்டு அப்படின்றது இன்றைய தினம் ரொம்ப முக்கியமான ஒரு விஷயமாக இருந்தாலும் கூட தன்னுடைய புத்தகத்தினுடைய எந்த பகுதியையும் யார் வேண்டுமானாலும் காப்பி செய்து கொள்ளலாம் என்று ஒரு அறிவிப்பையும் அந்த புத்தகத்திலே கொடுத்திருப்பது என்பது நமக்கெல்லாம் ஒரு நெகிழ்ச்சியை கொடுப்பதாகவும் மகிழ்ச்சியை கொடுப்பதாகவும் இருக்கின்றது. இந்த தமிழ்நாட்டிலே நான் ஏதோ ஐயாவை நான் சொல்ல வேண்டும் என்பதற்காக நான் சொல்லவில்லை. தமிழ்நாட்டிலே இருக்கக்கூடிய இந்த யோக சிகிச்சையாளர்கள் என்று நாம் எடுத்து பார்க்கின்ற பொழுது அதுல விரல் விட்டு சொல்லிடலாம். அதுல டாமினன்ட் ஃபிகர் அப்படின்னு சொன்னா மரியாதைக்குரிய மாதவன் ஐயா அவங்களை தான் நம்ம சொல்ல முடியும். அதுல மாற்று கருத்துக்கு இடமே இல்லை. எல்லா யோகால பயணிக்கிறவங்க எல்லாத்துக்குமே நம்மளுக்கு தெரியும். அவங்களுடைய அந்த யோகா மையத்துல குழந்தைகள் முதல் அதே மாதிரி பெரியவங்க வரைக்கும் பல்வேறு நாடுகள்ல இருந்து வெளிநாட்டவர்கள் அங்க பயிற்சி எடுத்துக்கிட்டு இருக்கிறத நான் நேரடியாக அந்த மையத்திலே சென்று பார்த்திருக்கின்றேன். அவர்கள் சார்ந்திருக்கின்ற குறிப்பாக இந்த தமிழ்நாடு ப்ரொஃபஷனல் குவாலிஃபைடு ரிஜிஸ்டர்டு யோகா டீச்சர் வெல்ஃபேர் அசோசியேஷனுடைய நம்முடைய அந்த தமிழக மாநிலத்தினுடைய அந்த அமைப்பினுடைய ஒரு பிரசிடென்டாகவும் இருந்து அந்த சங்கத்திலே தங்களை இணைத்துக் கொண்டிருக்கின்ற அத்துணை யோகா ஆசிரியர் பெருமக்களையும் தன்னுடைய ஒவ்வொரு நாளும் அப்கிரேடட் பண்ணணும், நாலேஜ் அப் டு டேட் நாலேஜஸ் அப்கிரேட் பண்ணணும் என்பதற்காக தமிழ்நாட்டினுடைய பல்வேறு இடங்களிலே தொடர்ச்சியாக இந்த சத்கர்மா கேம்ப் அப்படின்றத அமைத்து அதன் மூலமாக பல்வேறு நபர்களுக்கு பயிற்சி அளித்து வருகின்றார்கள். இதெல்லாம் ஒரு போற்றுதலுக்குரிய ஒரு விஷயம்தான். ஏனென்றால் எத்தனை பேர் இந்த சத்கிரியால எந்த அளவுக்கு டீப்பா இருப்பாங்கன்னு தெரியாது. ஆனா ஐயா அவங்க நானும் அந்த கேம்ப் அட்டன் பண்ண அந்த ஐயாவுடைய ஒரு யோக மாணவனாகவும் நான் இதை பதிவு செய்யறேன். அதாவது அந்த சத்கிரியா அப்படின்னா அது விரல் விட்டு சொல்லிடலாம். ஐயா மாதிரிக்கு உள்ளவங்க தான் அது ஒரு டெக்னிக்கலாகவும் ஒரு சரியான அந்த தெரபட்டிக்கல் பாயிண்ட் ஆஃப் வியூலையும் எடுக்க முடியும் அப்படின்றத ஐயாவுடைய கேம்புக்கு போகும்போதுதான் ஐயாவை பத்தி எனக்கு ரொம்ப நெடியதா தெரிஞ்சது. ஸோ அந்த அடிப்படையில இன்றைய தினம் ஐயா அவங்க ஒரு நல்லது ஒரு தலைப்புல நமக்கு கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. சயின்டிபிக் பெர்ஸ்பெக்டிவ் ஆஃப் பிரானா அண்ட் கிளாசிக்கல் பிரணயாமா அப்படின்ற ஒரு தலைப்புல ஐயா அவங்க உரையாற்றுவதற்காக வரை புரிந்திருக்கின்றார்கள். அதுவும் இன்றைய தினம் நமக்கு யோகா தினம். எனவே ஐயா அவர்களை இந்நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு வருக வருக என வரவேற்கிறேன். தொடர்ந்து நம்முடைய இரண்டாம் அவர்களே டுடே த செகண்ட் செஷன் ரிசோர்ஸ் பர்சன் டினோ ஹிரா ஆல்சோ ஜாயின்ட் திஸ் ப்ரோக்ராம். I would like to welcome Dr. Tino Hira from Hong Kong. I welcome you, sir. நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து நம்மளுடைய இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியினுடைய இணை செயலராக இருந்து இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிகளை மிக சிறப்பாக தொகுத்து வழங்கி கொண்டிருக்கின்ற குணசேகரன் அவர்களையும் அவர்களுடைய மனைவி திருமதி காயத்ரி அம்மையார் அவர்களையும் தொழில்நுட்ப ரீதியாக பணிகளை செய்து கொண்டிருக்கின்ற காந்திராஜன் அவர்களையும் இந்த 3 மாதங்களாக இந்தியா முழுவதும் பல்வேறு இடங்களிலே யோக நிகழ்ச்சிகள் தொடர்ந்து நடைபெற்றுக் கொண்டிருக்கின்ற வேளையிலே கடந்த ஆண்டுகளை விட இந்த ஆண்டு அது அதிகரித்திருக்கின்றது. அதற்கான விழிப்புணர்வுகள் அதிகரித்திருக்கின்ற வேளையிலே எங்களுடைய 21 நாள் நிகழ்ச்சியிலே ஒவ்வொரு நாள் நிகழ்ச்சிகளிலும் குறைந்தபட்சம் 40 நபர்களாவது கலந்து கொண்டிருக்கின்றார்கள். அதை யூடியூப் வாயிலாகவும் நிறைய மக்கள் பாக்குறாங்க உலகளாவிய அளவுல. ஆனாலும் கூட ஒரு 40 பேர் கண்டிப்பா எங்களுடைய நிகழ்ச்சியில கலந்திருக்கிய உண்மையிலே இந்த பல்வேறு இடத்துல நிகழ்ச்சி இன்னைக்கு நிறைய இடங்கள்ல நிறைய இன்ஸ்டிடியூஷன்ல இன்னைக்கு இதே டயத்திலேயும் நிகழ்ச்சிகள் நடந்துகிட்டு இருக்கு. அப்படி இருந்தாலும் கூட தொடர்ந்து எங்களுடைய நிகழ்ச்சி நல்ல சிறப்பாக இருக்கும் என்ற அடிப்படையிலே தங்களை இணைத்துக் கொண்டிருக்கின்ற அனைத்து யோகா ஆசிரியர்கள், யோகா ஆர்வலர்கள், யோகா பயிற்றுநர்கள், பல்வேறு கல்லூரியை சார்ந்த குறிப்பாக அழகப்பா காலேஜ் ஆஃப் எஜுகேஷன் டாக்டர் மேடம் அவர்கள் தொடர்ச்சியாக இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியில கலக்குறாங்க. பாலமுருகன் அவர்கள், இந்த மாதிரி பல கல்லூரியில் இருக்கக்கூடிய நபர்கள் எல்லாம் தொடர்ச்சியாக இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியில கலந்துகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அவங்களையும் இந்த நேரத்திலே இருகரம் கூப்பி வருக வருக என வரவேற்று தற்போது ஐயா அவர்களிடம் இந்த இணையம் ஒப்படைக்கப்படுகின்றது. தொடர்ந்து ஐயா அவர்களுடைய உரை அமைய இருக்கின்றது. நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
அனைவருக்கும் யோக தின சர்வதேச யோக தின நல்வாழ்த்துக்களை தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டு எனது இந்த இன்றைக்கு கொடுக்கப்பட்டிருக்கக்கூடிய தலைப்பு The Scientific Perspective of Prana and Classical Pranayamas என்ற தலைப்பிலே சொல்லி இருக்கிறார்கள். இது ஒரு is it possible, do all the people audible or
yes sir, yes sir, yeah. Audible sir.
Okay, should I speak in Tamil or should I speak in English? Everybody knows Tamil here. If you want, I can talk in English.
Both welcome sir. Bilingual language also.
Because I saw somebody from Hong Kong, so
yes sir, yes sir.
Vinith on the screen is careful. Yeah. So previously I was thinking that there was a power cut since from the morning here. So I don't know whether I could be able to show the slides or not. In such a cases, if there is no power, no internet, then I need to go through the mobile phone, like discussion session rather than showing some slides and then talking. Let us make it as a more interaction. If the people have any questions regarding the pranayama sadhana or the pranayama practices, the techniques, maybe I thought of to give the answers, but the power has come back. So I'll start from this introduction to art and science of pranayama. It is the classical pranayama. Next. So the pranayama, the term pranayama has been defined pranasya ayama pranayama. The ayama, which means increasing or prolonging or extending or enhancing. Enhancing what? Enhancing the prana is called pranayama. The practice that which increases the quantity of the prana or the amount of the prana within the microcosm, that practice is called pranayama. Pranasya ayama pranayama. According to Patanjali, swasa praswasa yorgate vicetaga pranayama. The inhalation, exhalation, and in between these two there is a break. That process is called pranayama. This is what defined by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. Whereas the terminology that is for the pranayama term, it's a pranasya ayama pranayama. Okay, next. Pranayama is the fourth anga of the Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. Pranayama is the art and science of the breathing. How we should breathe, inhale, exhale, such a thing. It's an essential part of Hatha Yogic practices. It is the science of cleaning, balancing, vitalizing, gaining control over the cosmic life principle, prana, within the human body. Because the prana is everywhere, the prana exists everywhere, that which moves the entire cosmos. We are also the part and partial of the cosmos. So the microcosm also has the prana. Similarly, the macrocosm is also has the prana. So called the Mahaprana, which works within the human body, that is called as the prana or the life. So how to handle this prana within the microcosm, that technique is called pranayama. Next. So what is prana? From where the prana comes to us? Who gives us the prana? What are the sources of the prana? These are the questions arises when we talk about the prana. From where the prana comes to us, whether we receive the prana from the food or whether we receive the prana from the 5 elements, such a questions comes. Generally, the prana already inbuilt in our body. The prana is the unique word. It cannot be compared with energy. Prana is a prana. Generally, we used to say most of us, we understand when we say the prana, it means energy. Energy is something different. You can receive energy from the food. We can receive the energy from the water. You can receive the energy from the air. But whereas you cannot increase the prana inside. It is like certain quantity of the prana has been decided for us based on our karma. That we will see. Okay, next. As per the terminology, the word prana itself can be broken into 2 parts. One is called pra. That means prior, which was existing independently. When before the atomic manifestation started to begin. It's called ana, means the short form of the cell or an atom or the molecule is called anu. All life is made up of atoms and molecules, and cells are collectively called ana. So therefore, the prana, that which existed before the atomic or the cellular life came to action or the begin, such life termed as manifestation of the divine. So that is called the prana. Next. Whether the prana is the oxygen, the question comes. We call it as a prana is the, in a scientific basis, we call it as a oxygen is the prana. But unfortunately, oxygen can be produced in the laboratory, but you cannot produce the prana in the laboratory. If the prana is the oxygen, we can produce oxygen and keep it in a cylinder, and then we can survive or live for the years. We can produce the oxygen in the laboratory or some factories. We are already very familiar with that. After this COVID, most of the people were going with the cylinders. Even though if you take in the critical care unit, like an intensive care in a hospital, in spite of giving IV fluids, in spite of giving the blood essential medicines, all these things doesn't help. Finally, the doctor says we couldn't save the prana or we couldn't save the life. If the oxygen gives the life, then no one should die. We have to understand very clearly the oxygen is completely different from the prana. According to the Vedas and Upanishads, there are a lot of quotations were given in Upanishads regarding the prana. I don't want to go in details. Next. These are all the different quotations from the Prashana Upanishad, Vedas, Atharva Vedas, Taittiriya Upanishad, all these things. Let us go back to the prana. The prana can be divided into only one prana exists. That prana is called the Mahaprana. The Mahaprana, when it descends from the macrocosm to microcosm, it is divided into two parts like Mukhya Prana and Upapranas. Mahaprana, which functions the entire cosmos. For example, if you take the cosmos, there are hundreds and thousands and even the millions of the planets and stars are moving. Who makes the planets to rotate? Even if you take the earth, our planet earth started to rotate by itself and it's coming around the sun. Who moves all these things? That prana is called Mahaprana. When the Mahaprana from the macrocosm descends down and it takes the body, when it enters into the body, that prana divided into two parts known as the Mukhya Pranas and Upapranas. Next. So, by which the entire cosmos, previous slide, by which Mahaprana, what it does, by which the entire cosmos moves, that is called Mahaprana. It is well organized, for thousands and even thousands, even the millions of the years, it's happening. No changes. It's well organized in a very good order. It keep on goes. When the Mahaprana from the cosmos, it enters into the body, we call it as a Mukhya Pranas and Upapranas. Next. So Mukhya Pranas are the Panchamukhi Pranas, known as Prana, Udana, Samana, Apana, Vyana. The prana situated in the physical body around the chest region, which is responsible for the respiration. Udana situated in the throat region, which is respiration, which is responsible for the swallowing and the speech, all these things done by the Udana Vayu. And the Samana Vayu is in the abdomen, which is responsible for all the colic and digestive process. Apana situated in the anus, which is responsible for all the downward movement like a defecation, urination, menstrual, sexual discharge, all these things. Vyana Vayu is situated in the entire body, by which it moves the blood circulation and the transportation done by the Vyana Vayu, Vyana Prana. Okay, next. Next. The Pancha Upapranas are the Naga, Kurma, Kirkara, Devadatta, and Dhanaja. Naga is the responsible for the belching, that is the Yapavaradhu, and Kurma is responsible for the eyes, eyelids, moving the eyelids and moving the iris, all these things. Kirkara is responsible for the sneezing and cough, like a Yirmal, Tummal, Ivailelam, Erpaduthuvathu. Devadatta is responsible for the yawning, and Dhananjaya produces the phlegm and nourishes in the sense we call it as a nourishes, but generally it decomposes the body. According to our elderly people, this among the Upapranas or the Dhananjaya is the very, very important Vayu. Because it after the person, after so-called the soul leaves the body, upon so-called the Dhananjaya Vayu stays inside the body, and then it started to decompose the body. That's why in olden days, the yogis were the bodies were taken and they made it in a samadhi. They don't put it in a fire. So one of the important instruction given by our Siddha texts, you should not burn the body in a way, because if you do that one, the Dhananjaya cannot do its work. So important this Dhananjaya Upa Prana. Okay, next. So this is what we saw according to the pranas. Now ayama means stretching, lengthening, prolonging, extending, increasing, enhancing, elongating. We can say so many meanings for the term ayama. So from this we can come to the conclusion that practice which increases the lifespan of the human being, such a kind of practice is called pranayama. Unfortunately, nowadays in this world, the pranayama has been translated or termed as a breathing exercise or the so-called the breathing practices. No, in reality, it is not. The practice which increases the lifespan is called the pranayama. Okay, next. So pranayama means increase the lifespan of the individual by retaining the cosmic pranic force inside the body. That is called pranayama. Next. Where the prana is situated in our body. If we wanted to know these things detail, we need to know about the bodies we have. How many bodies we have. Next. How many bodies we have? Next. We have three bodies in our body. One is called Sthula Sarira, so-called the gross body, which made up of 5 elements. The next one is called the Sukshma Sarira, known as the subtle body. The third one is called Karana Sarira, which is responsible for Sthula and Sukshma. Hence, it is called the Karana Sarira. So, what is Sthula Sarira? Sthula Sarira means, which is called the gross body. What does the meaning for the gross body? That can be perceived by 5 sense organs, which are all experienced, perceived by the 5 sense organs. That is known as gross. In another way, if we say the gross manner, that which made up of 5 elements all comes under the gross. What is subtle? That which cannot be perceived by the 5 sense organs, or that cannot be measured by any means. That is called Sukshma Sarira. Karana Sarira, which is the cause for the Sthula and Sukshma Sarira. Without the Karana Sarira, the Sthula and the Sukshma Sarira can't exist. So hence the Karana Sarira named as a causal body. So further to make a very clear understanding to these 3 bodies, the 3 bodies again divided into 5 koshas. Next. Next. The 5 koshas. The 5 koshas are mostly all the people, yoga teachers and the yoga practitioners, all people knows the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya koshas. Annamaya kosha, known as, we call it as a physical body, or known as the physical sheath. If we wanted to know what Annamaya kosha made up of, we can say 2 ways. One is the scientific perspective. We can say the Annamaya kosha made up of cells. If you take the yogic philosophy or so-called the human philosophy, the Annamaya Kosha made up of 5 elements. Because the cells are the most important, the basic fundamental structural and functional unit of our body, the cells. Because cells has the structure. Even inside, if you go, we have the nucleus, we have the mitochondria, we have the nucleolus, we have the cytoplasm, we have the protoplasm. All the things has the structure. Once if it has any structure, that is called Annamaya Kosha. If we go detailedly, what are the cells made up of? The science may say the amino acids, proteins, such a things we can say. But again, our Siddhar text says all the cells are made up of 5 elements. If you take the cell, how can we understand the Panchabhutas, so-called the 5 elements in the cells? The so-called cell wall is made up of the Prithvi, known as the earth, cell wall. If you take the cytoplasm, that is made up of water. If you take the mitochondria and the nucleus, which made up of fire. If you take the airways where the cells can breathe, the oxygen goes and the carbon dioxide comes, the gases which transforms, that is called the air. Through so-called the small minute pores, the small gap where the Akasha is situated. That is what we can very clearly understand. Our body is made up of 5 elements. Scientific perspective, that is what we say, how to understand the Annamaya Kosha in this, Annamaya Kosha in the cell, Pranamaya Kosha in the pranic body, astral body. So in order to understand all these things, we need to know little bit basically about the anatomy and the physiology, also the Panchabhuta Siddhanta, the 5 elements theory. Then it's very easy for us to understand our body. So Annamaya Kosha, then Pranamaya Kosha made up of 72,000 nadis. Among the 72,000 nadis that we will see later. Manomaya Kosha made up of Antakaranas known as Manas, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. Vijnanamaya Kosha made up of the pure intellect. Even Manomaya Kosha also has the intellect. That intellect is called the impure. Whereas Vijnanamaya Kosha has a very clear intellect. There is no so-called toxins or the impurities or so-called the malas doesn't exist. Whereas Anandamaya Kosha supposed to be the bliss sheath or the wisdom seat where only the Purusha dwells. We call it as a pure consciousness. It's called the, we say in Tamil, we say it's a Tuya Arivu. Okay, next. Next. So as far as the pranayama concerned, when we go to the pranayama practices, we have to be very, very cautious. Without the preliminary measures, it's not good to start the pranayama practices directly, because Hatha Yoga Pratipika says before it gives the pranayama, any yogic techniques, he says conducive and non-conducive factors for the yogic practices. That too, for the pranayama practices, it's very, 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 because prana is something like electricity, like a fire. We have to be very, very careful to when we handle the prana in our body. What are all the cautions? We will see. Next. Caution, don't go beyond your capacity. Don't increase the time of the practice immediately. Don't practice only with the help of books. It's very, very important. Don't practice while you are seriously ill. And also, next. So this is what I say, the pranayama, when a person begins the pranayama yogic practices, atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamakraghaga janasankascha laulyam cha shadbir yoga vinashyati. What are all the 6 things which destroy your yogic practices? Overeating, excession, talkativeness, adhering to the rules, being in the company of the very common people, and unsteadiness. These all are the factors which destroy all your yogic practices. Next, Swatmarama says, next, what are all the favorable practices? Utsahat, Sagasat, Dairyat, Tatvanyanascha, Nishchayat, Janasanka Parityagat, Satpir Yogaha, Prasiddhyati. That which favorable for the yogic practices, that which increases the quality of the practices. It is called the enthusiasm, perseverance, discrimination, unshakable faith, and courage, avoiding the common people company. These all are the 6 factors which is favorable for the yoga practices, that too especially for the pranayama practices. Next. This sutra given before when they gave to the pranayama practices, especially yata simho gajo vyagro bhavet vasyaga sanai sanaihi tataiva sevito vayuranyata hanti satakam. That is what the sutra says. What does it mean? How you train the wild animals like a lion, like a tiger, like elephant. You have to be very, 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 very cautious when you train our prana. If you train without precautions, the animal can kill us. Similarly, our own prana can destroy the Annamaya Kosha, because Pranamaya Kosha is much more powerful than the Annamaya Kosha. Always the subtle things influences more on the physical body rather than the physical influences the subtle. Because Pranamaya Kosha can easily influence Annamaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha can easily influence the Pranamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha can directly influence the Manomaya Koshas if you go from the downward. Next. So what are all the precautions when we do the pranayama practices? Empty the stomach and bowels, avoid smoking and drinking, follow the very sattvic food, comfortable clothing, settled atmosphere, use always the mat, regular timing, spine, neck and head should be erect throughout the practice. No strain while you are practicing. Don't force yourself in any way. When we do the pranayama practices, we have to respect our limitations, our own the constitution, our own age, and also what are all the physical complaints we have. All the things has to be taken into account. Next. So this goes again to the scientific basis of the breathing. When we call it as a breathing, when we breathe or the breathing takes place, whether we breathe or the breathing takes place. Generally, we don't breathe, breathing takes place automatically. That is what happens. Then why we should disturb? If the breathing happens by itself, then why a person should disturb? Because next slide. So this is what is breathing? Breathing is the one inhalation and one exhalation is called breathing. Normal rate of the respiration is slightly higher in the woman than the man, and normal rates per minute with the different, like a newborn baby is 40 times per minute, 1 year 30 minutes, 2 to 5 years 24 times, in adult around 20, 18 to 22 times. That is what happens in our with the humans. When we grow, from the birth when the small baby to the adult one. These are all the breathing rate, respiratory rate, we call it as. Next. The pranayama, the breathing has the three phases. One is called inhalation, second one is called exhalation, the third one is called retention. Again, the retention is divided into two. One is called antar kumbhaka and the next one is called the bahya kumbhaka. There is one more unique kumbhaka given in all the texts, yogic, hatha yogic text like hatha yoga pradipika or the Garanta Samhita or the Siva Samhita or the Siddha Siddhanta Patati, Yoga Tarangini, all the texts gives the importance to the Kevala Kumbhaka. That is what, because even the best asana is Siddhasana, best Kumbhaka is the Kevala Kumbhaka, best Mudra is the Kechari Mudra, given in the best is meditation is the Laya, that is what the Swatmarama says in his Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So the Sunyaka are known as the Kevala Kumbhaka is the very, very important as far as the pranayama phase is concerned. Next. These are the sutras given in Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Yavat vayu stito dehe tavat jivana muchyate maranam tasya niskrantistato tado vayum nirodayet. The sutra says, as long as so-called the prana or the vayu remains inside the body, there is, we call it as a life. Death, when the prana leaves, in the sense, the so-called the pure consciousness leaves, not the prana. Prana itself exhausted. That is what, when the prana is exhausted, we call it as a death. So always try to retain the prana inside of the body rather than spending the prana. Next. So before we go to the pranayama techniques, we call it as a Vibhaga Pranayama. This is called the sectional breathing. It based on the usage of the lungs. We call it as Adama Pranayama, Madhya Pranayama, and Adya Pranayama. Adya Swasa, it's called the breathing. Adama Swasa, it's called the diaphragmatic breathing. Madhyama Swasa, or the intercostal or thoracic breathing. Adya Swasa is called the clavicular, upper clavicular breathing. Next. This is what we use. The Adama Pranayama, so-called the lower breathing, we use the 60% of the alveoli in the lower part of the body. Whereas Madhya Swasa, we uses the 30% of the alveoli. Adya Swasa, we use 10% of the air sacs. If we completely use all these three together, we call it as a full yogic breathing. That is what we have to do in all the pranayamas. All the 100% of the lungs has to be utilized. Unfortunately, in our normal breathing, in our daily life, we use only 35% of the lungs. Next. Next. So when we call it as a pranayama, pranayama can be classified in several manners based on its effects, based on its benefits. We call it as a purifying pranayama, balancing pranayamas, heating pranayamas, cooling pranayamas, tranquilizing pranayamas, and vitalizing pranayamas. This is the way we can classify the pranayamas based on its effect in the Stula Sarira, so-called the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, and Manomaya Koshas. Because when we take the purifying, it purifies the physical body. Also mind. In balancing pranayama, it balances the mind from the likes and dislikes. When it's heating pranayama, the cellular system gets heated. Cooling, again the cellular system gets cooled. Tranquilizing pranayama, it goes to the mind. Vitalizing pranayama, a person started to feel more enthusiastic. Such a things. Next. So balancing pranayamas and purifying pranayama, we call it as a Nadi Siddhi pranayama, Nadi Shodhana, and Anulom Vilom pranayama, or comes under the purifying and balancing pranayamas. Next. Heating pranayama is Surya Bedana. No. Previous slide. Surya Bedana and Surya Anuloma Viloma Pranayama are called heating pranayamas. Next. The cooling pranayamas like Sitali, Sitkari, and Chandra Anuloma Pranayama, Anuloma Viloma Pranayama are the cooling pranayamas. Next. Tranquilizing pranayamas are like Brahmari Pranayama and Ujjayi Pranayama. They are so-called tranquilizing pranayama or the Laya Pranayamas. Next. Vitalizing pranayama is a Bastrika Pranayama, which gives enormous strength immediately after the practice. That is called vitalizing pranayama. So based on its effects, we can classify into purification, purifying, balancing, heating, cooling, vitalizing, tranquilizing. Such a way we can classify. In order to have a better understanding, we can classify the pranayama techniques like this. Next. So what is the way we use our respiratory system? You can see the structure in the picture. You can see the simple breathing, inhalation and exhalation are superficial. Whereas in pranayama breathing, you can see the arrow marks where the diaphragm is completely, lower lobe of the lungs is completely used. We move the lower part of the abdomen in a different manner. You can see the arrow marks, excess arrow marks in the pranayama breathing. We use efficiently our body. When we use the efficiently, then the respiratory rate is reduced. Next. So these all are the Hatha Yoga Pradipika Sus. Therefore, the pranayama should be done daily in a sattvic state of the mind, so that the impurities are driven out of the Sushumna Nadi and pranayamam tada kuryat nityam. They say kuryat nityam satvikastaya yata Sushumna nadista mala suddhi prayantischa. So it's a sutra's case. Kaniyasi bhavet svetaka kampo bhavati madhyame uttame sthanam apnoti tado vayum nibandayet. These all are the importance of the pranayama given in Hatha Yoga Pradipika 2nd chapter. The sutras numbers are 6 and 12. You can refer all these sutras in the text. Next. Again, what are all the things will happen? Jalena sramajatena gadra mardhanam, gadra macharet. So when the pranayama practices, when you do, there is enormous perspiration comes. When the perspiration comes, you should not wipe out with the towel or wash it with water. We need to rub with our hand. Otherwise, the heat will remain inside. That will decreases the lifespan of the cells. You will feel very tired, exhausted. That is what he says. When you rub the sweat inside of the body, it gives the enormous firmness and steadiness to the body. Only the sweat. It says, Swatmana says, Dridata and Laguta. Dridata means your body become enormous firmness will come. So if the pranayama practices has to be done in a proper manner, when you do it in a proper manner, you can eradicate all the disorders from the body, which is happen due to the vitiated 3 doshas like Vata, Pitta and Kapha. That is what he says in the 16th sutra, pranayamena yuktena sarvaroga kshayo bhavet. Ayukta abhyasa yogena sarvaroga samudbhavaha. It says like, if you improper yogic practices will bring all the problems to your body. Hence, the precaution has been given in the previous slides. With the help of the books, with the help of the YouTube channels, please don't practice the pranayama. Next. What are all the complaint will come? Hikka swasascha kasascha sira karna akshi vedana Bhavanti Vivida Rogaha Pavanasya Prasukopata. If the prana vitiated, what are all the things will come? It says again, it goes to this Pancha Pranas, like hiccup comes, asthma, cough, headache, ear and eye pain, and various other diseases. When we do all this improper way, so-called, we call it as a Pancha 10 pranas, Mukhya and Upa pranas. All the pranas get vitiated. Such a related part will be affected. So yuktam yuktam chajetvayum yuktam yuktam chapurayet. So you have to be very careful. Very skillfully you have to inhale with our own limitations. And you need to do the retention also. Retention also must be very careful. Next. So before we go into the, these are all the Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama techniques, how to do it, all these things has been, most of the yoga sadhaks knows all these techniques. So hence, I don't want to go detail into the techniques. If people has any questions, they can put it in the chat box regarding the pranayama if they want, if the time permits. I don't want to go detail into the Nadi Shodhana Pranayama, the Surya Bedana Pranayama, Sitali, Sitkari, and Pastrika, because all the yogic people knows all these techniques very clearly. Vinith, slide close பண்ணிருங்க Vinith. So, with all these informations, because time is very less, time concern is very less. So within a 1 hour or within the 45 minutes, explaining about it, just I didn't explain anything, just I was reading all these things, that's all. Because of the time concern, I was doing all these things. So if you have any questions, maybe one or two questions, if you have any questions regarding the pranayama.
Sir, வணக்கம்.
வணக்கம்.
கேக்குதுங்களா சார்?
கேக்குதுங்கம்மா, கேக்குது, சொல்லுங்க.
சார், இந்த தொண்டை இன்ஃபெக்ஷனுக்கு பிராமரி பண்ணலாங்களா? தொண்டையில
இன்ஃபெக்ஷன், அதாவது தொண்டையில இன்ஃபெக்ஷன் நிறைய வருகின்ற பொழுது நீங்க ஓய்வு எடுக்கிறது தான் சிறப்பு.
சரி சார்.
தொண்டை ஏற்கனவே இன்ஃபெக்ஷன் இருக்கும்போது, இல்ல எனக்கு இன்ஃபெக்ஷன்ங்கிறது அடிக்கடி த்ரோட் இன்ஃபெக்ஷன் வருது அப்படிங்கிற பொழுது நாம உஜ்ஜை பிராணாயாமம் பண்ணலாம்.
ஓ சரி.
கபாலபாதி பண்ணலாம். ஷட்கர்மால இருக்கக்கூடிய கபாலபாதி, that will help enormously.
Oh.
And Ujjayi Pranayama will help. Also, you can do the Simmakriya. Those practices definitely can help as a therapeutic manner.
Oh, நன்றிங்க சார்.
Okay, so with this, I conclude my.
வாழ்க வளமுடன் ஐயா. என்னோட பேர் சத்தியமூர்த்திங்க, ராணிபுரம் பேசுறீங்க.
சொல்லுங்க ஐயா.
ஏன் நம்ம பிராணாயாமா பண்ணும்போது நம்ம பொதுவாகவே நம்ம சின்முத்திரையில தான் வச்சு பண்றோம் ஐயா.
ஆமா, சின்முத்திரையில சொல்லுங்க ஐயா.
அதை தவிர்த்து ரொம்ப எஃபெக்டிவா இருக்கக்கூடிய முத்திரா வச்சு பண்ணும்போது எதனாச்சும் வேரியேஷன் இருக்குங்க? இப்ப நம்ம ஆதி முத்திரையில வச்சு பண்றோம், ஆதி முத்திரையில இருக்கும், இல்ல லிங்க முத்திரையில வச்சு நம்ம மெடிடேஷன் பண்ணும்போது அந்த மாதிரி அந்த பேஸ்ல நம்ம பிராணாயாமம் பண்ணா அதுல பிட்ஸ் கம்மியா இருக்குன்ற மாதிரி ஃபீல் ஆகுதுங்க. இல்ல அதெல்லாம் ஒண்ணும் இல்லைங்க.
அது it depends upon the individual perception. Mudra is a mudra. Do you know the definition for the mudra? The definition for the mudra is mutam karoti iti mudra. That which brings you the moksha is called mudra.
நம்ம பிராணாயாமா பண்ணும்போது ஒவ்வொருத்தருடைய வயசுக்கு, அவங்களுடைய உடல் பலம், அவங்க நீங்க சொன்னீங்க இல்லைங்க, உணவு விதம், அதுக்கப்புறம் அவனுடைய பாவனைகள் அதுக்கு ஏற்ற மாதிரி மாறணும் போது இப்ப நம்ம முத்ராஸ் மாத்தி செய்யும் போது எதனா வேரியேஷன் வருமான்னு சொல்லிட்டு கேக்குறாங்க.
இல்ல முத்ராஸ் மாத்தி செய்கின்ற முத்திரை அப்படிங்கிறது எதற்காக செய்யறது அப்படிங்கிறது முத்திரைங்கிறது ஜென்ரலாக that which retains the prana inside our body. You know the chinmudrai அப்படிங்கிறது தெரியும் இல்லையா?
ஆமாங்க.
Generally we put like this. What is known as chin? This is known as the chinmudra, or known as Jnana Mudra, or known as Vishnu Mudra. These are the three names.
சரிங்க.
What it signifies? சின்முத்திரைக்கு ஏன் இது ஞான முத்திரைன்னு பேர் வச்சிருக்கோம் இல்லையா? It is called as the Jnana Mudra. If this mudra gives the jnana, then what is the necessity to do other practices? If you keep the mudra 24 hours, you put a glue inside and then tie with the rope, keep 24 into 7, will you get the jnana? Will the consciousness will come? Will the enlightenment will come? அது வராது. அதனால முத்திரையினுடைய நோக்கம் அதான் சொல்ல இது வந்து ரொம்ப பெரிய டாபிக். இது இந்த முத்திரை சின்முத்திரை நான் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா I need an hour to explain about the chinmudra itself.
சரிங்க சரி.
அதனால இந்த இன்னொரு நாளைக்கு நாம பேசுவோம்.
நல்லதுங்க.
மொத்தத்துல முத்திரை வைக்கிறதுனுடைய நோக்கம் நமது உடல்ல இருந்து பிராணமய கோஷத்திலிருந்து நமது பிராணன் எனர்ஜி ஆகப்பட்டது கை விரல்கள் வழியாக வெளியே போகும். அது வெளியே போகாம சர்க்குலேட் பண்ணுவதற்காக நம்ம முத்திரை வைக்கணும். முத்திரை வைக்க வேண்டிய நோக்கம் இவ்வளவுதான். அது எந்த முத்திரையாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, முத்திரையினுடைய பலன் ஒன்றே ஒன்று. என்னது அப்படின்னு கேட்டோம்னா, in order to retain the prana inside rather than going out from the sutum sari.
ரொம்ப தெளிவா புரிஞ்சுங்க. நன்றி.
நன்றி. எனக்கு இந்த வாய்ப்பை நல்கிய திரு பிரசாத் ஐயா அவர்களுக்கும் திரு குணசேகரன் அவர்களுக்கும் இதை அருமையாக ஒருங்கிணைத்துக் கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய காயத்ரி அம்மா அவர்களுக்கும் எனது மனமார்ந்த நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டு மீண்டும் ஒரு சமயத்தில் எலாபரேட்டா பார்க்கணும். இது நான் இன்னைக்கெல்லாம் சீக்கிரம் பிரசன்டேஷனை முடிக்கணுங்கிறதுக்காக குடுக்குன்னு படிச்சுட்டு ஓடிட்டேன். அந்த மாதிரி இல்லாமல் if we keep the interaction session, it would be very nice rather than the preaching, rather than the putting the slide and keep on talking. If you have the question and answer session, it would be very more lively, more useful and inspiring to the people. Okay, so with this I conclude myself. Thank you very much for the organizers and viewers, and once again I wish you all the very happy International Yoga Day. Thank you very much.
மிக்க மகிழ்ச்சி ஐயா.
Thank you sir. Thank you sir.
21ஆம் நாள் நிகழ்விலே முதல் அமர்விலே கலந்து கொண்டு மிக சிறப்பாக நம்மளுடைய பண்டைய கால யோக நூல்களுடைய அடிப்படையில் பிரணயாம பயிற்சிகள் குறித்தான விரிவான தகவல்களை ஐயா அவர்கள் வழங்கி இருக்கின்றார்கள். ஐயா அவர்கள் சொல்வது போல் அந்த கால அவகாசம் என்பது குறுகிய அளவிலே இருப்பதனால் அவர்கள் விரிவாக அந்த தகவல்களை வழங்கி இருக்கின்றார்கள். இருந்தாலும் கூட அடுத்து ஒரு அமர்விலே நம்ம ஐயாவுடைய அமர்வை கண்டிப்பா கேட்போம். எனவே முறைப்படி ஐயா அவர்களுக்கு நன்றி இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியினுடைய இறுதியிலே சொல்வதற்கு தொடர்ந்து 2வது நிகழ்ச்சி அமைய இருக்கின்றது. ஐயா அவர்களுக்கு மீண்டும் அனைத்து இந்தியன் யோகா அசோசியேஷன் தமிழ்நாடு சாப்டர் உள்ளிட்ட அனைத்து யோக சங்கங்கள் சார்பாக இந்த நேரத்திலே மனமார்ந்த நன்றிகளை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றோம். தொடர்ந்து இப்ப வந்து ஐயாவுடைய கிளாஸுடைய ஃபீட்பேக் லிங்க் பதிவு பண்ணியிருக்கோம். ஐயாவுடைய கிளாஸுடைய ஃபீட்பேக் லிங்க் நீங்க எல்லாருமே பதிவு பண்ணிடுங்க. அதே மாதிரிக்கே 21 நாள் நிறைவினுடைய சர்டிபிகேட் பெறக்கூடியவங்க உங்களுக்கான அந்த 2வது அமர்வு அடுத்து இருக்கு. அந்த 2வது அமர்வுலையும் உங்களுடைய ஃபீட்பேக் லிங்க் வந்து கண்டிப்பா மஸ்ட். எனவே அதையும் பதிவு செய்ய வேண்டும். தொடர்ந்து வருகின்ற நிகழ்ச்சியை நீங்கள் கவனிக்க வேண்டும் என்று கூறி தற்போது செகண்ட் செஷன் பிகின் வித் நெக்ஸ்ட் ரிசோர்ஸ் பர்சன் டினோ ஹிரா from Hong Kong. His topic is living the Sanatana Dharma way in the modern world. In Sanatana Dharma is a very essential dharma for every human being, but which is essential for the modern age. Today we are living with the 21st century. In the modern age we know about the Sanatana Dharma, but these dharmas originated by our ancient peoples. based on this dharma only will live in proper in the modern way of life, because the modern life is based on purely on the economical base. But the economical base is not necessary. But in our purdartham means aram porul inbam veedu peru. So these are the four principles is there. According their four principles only, our ancient peoples they are creating the dharmas. So next resource person, now the time for introduction for next resource person. I request Gayatri ma'am to give the introduction about our today resource person, Dr. Dino Hira from Hong Kong. Ma'am.
Good evening to one and all gathered here. It is my pleasure to introduce our today's resource person. Dino Hira was working as a mining engineer, and he was living up to the expectation of the modern world, wanted the best car, the best house, the best clothes, yet he did not know that the best contentment lay in his ability to go within. In 2014, he suffered from poor mental health, thinking there was no hope or purpose to live, as he was plucked by the expectation of the society. An awakening happened, which allowed him to discover meditation on a deeper level, which completely changed his life and led him to accomplish many things. He became a star on Australian television in Marcos. He has taught mindfulness and meditation in Australian prisoner and drug and alcohol center. Dino has documented in spiritual journey in the memoir, a miner who wins inner peace, which enlighten how one can silence the mind and listen to the heart and soul. As a qualified hypnotherapist, Reiki master, and a counselor, Dino has recently launched the Modern Yogic, a wellness brand that aims to spread the gift of Sanatana Dharma to help calm the mind and release stress. It is I welcome to deliver your wonderful speech, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gayatri ji, for the wonderful welcome. Thank you, Prasad, Dr. Prasad, for explaining what Sanatan really is. I welcome all of you to just take a moment first and let us all just close our eyes. Close our eyes. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. And on the next exhale, let us all collectively recite Om. Inhale. Oh. 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 And just 3 times. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. And before you open your eyes, move the most important muscle, your smile. And slowly open your eyes. Thank you for joining me on that little welcome. And, you know, International Yoga Day is today. And how can we not pay respects to the Adi Yogi, the first yogi in this whole universe? So, Jai Shambho, Jai Shambho, Jai Shambho, Jai Bholenath. So today, thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. You know, time is something that is very valuable. Time is something we cannot buy back, but energy is something we can manipulate. And I hope the next half an hour of my speech will give you great energy, uplifting energy. And like Dr. Madhavan beautifully explained, let us keep this interactive as well. So maybe for the first 10, 15 minutes, I'll explain my background, explain why Sanatana Dharma is the most important aspect, most important principle, the way of life in today's modern world. So let me start by explaining Sanatana Dharma. Now, what does it actually mean? Sanatana means eternal. Eternal, which is limitless, no boundary, no borders. It is completely limitless. And Dharma, what does it actually mean? It means simply the law or duty in a way. So Sanatana Dharma is the eternal law. Now, when we look at modern life, we have laws everywhere, right? When we, even at home, our relationship between the mother, the son, also the father and the son, also the teacher and the disciple, there's always a law. There's some way of having your principles, having your way of interacting, way of boundaries as well. And these laws will change from time to time. You know, when you say move out of home and you live with your wife, the laws completely change at times. When you move from job to job, when you say, when in my case, I was an engineer in the mines, when I moved from engineering to now teaching meditation, in what a fulfilling life it is, I feel so happy. And the laws also change in a way because you get more fulfillment. And it's not only about materialistic aspects, economy, but it's actually about being your inner self, being your true self. So what the Sanatan, what the ancient, as Dr. Prasath said, these are created by our ancestors. Sanatana Dharma is created by our ancestors. What they really said was, no matter who you are, no matter what your job, no matter your status, where you are in the world, Sanatana Dharma should never change. It should always be the way our ancestors have taught us. So in this case, it is very true because Sanatana Dharma is the way of life. It's nothing physical. It's not a physical law by any chance. It is actually to go within, to find out who you essentially are. And it is the essential truth in this world as well. But in the modern world, I'll tell you an example what is happening. Yeah, I like to break things down in simple stories so people can understand. And there was a story once of a frog, okay, a frog in a well, and you can say that this frog was very proud. This frog thought the well that it lived in is the most biggest place in the world. One time, another frog joined it, okay, from the sea. Now, the frog came in the well and he said, oh, he met the other frog, and the frog who lived in the well said, my house is so big. See, I want you to tell me my well is bigger than the sea that you've come from. And the frog from the sea, of course, said, how can it be possible? A well is, your well doesn't even cover maybe half of, even a quarter of the sea. The sea is enormous. So in this case, the frog in the well felt really ashamed. He said, no, I don't accept that. You can go away, go back to your sea. I know my well is the biggest and most beautiful place in the world to live. So see, what is happening in the modern world today is, being a Hindu, I say, I live in my well and my well is the best. A Muslim will say, I live in my well is the best. A Christian will say the same, my well is the best. So we are all living in these silos of wells. But what International Yoga Day is, what Sanatana Dharma is to break down these borders. It is freedom. It is freedom in a beautiful way. And it's to bring, no matter what your culture, religion, caste, it is to bring everyone as one. And in the same way, Sanatana Dharma is union of oneself with true nature. And when you are connected with nature, when you're connected with the universe, even animals, you live a fulfilling, a beautiful life where you will, there are things like COVID that's happening today. Okay, a lot of people get shaken by COVID. They are living in fear, right? But when you are practicing Sanatana Dharma, you will learn to accept. You will learn to be in the moment. You will learn to, yeah, pranayama as well. You can use it to your advantage. Pranayama is also a very, very beautiful discipline. And when you have that discipline in your life, you will be able to accomplish many things. See, as a ancient example, Sri Ram. Sri Ram, we worship Sri Ram. We adore him, and we look up to these Sri Ram, Sri Krishna, Lord Shiva. We look up to them in a beautiful way, and in the same way, we can practice what they have done in this world too. Sri Ram, he faced kidnapping, he faced wars, he faced enemies much bigger, kings, rajas. But did that ever stop him? No. He still he still kept up his grace. He still knew that his discipline will take him through. His Sanatana Dharma is what made him victorious in many ways. And that is why, difficulties happen all around us, but it's how we react to the situation that really matters in the end. And to be honest, I've seen a lot of people living in fear, being in Hong Kong, a very vast place with 7 million people in a very tiny city. So people are quite cautious. And whenever there are cases going up and up, in a way, it's good for me because I get a lot of patients that I see in my clinic here in Hong Kong. Me and my wife, we have a clinic. So she works on the medical side. I work on the alternative therapy like Reiki, past life regression, but also guiding on meditation. Meditation is such a beautiful aspect to have. And one thing about having this COVID around us can be also a blessing in a way, because it allows you to practice what you've been preaching in a way, because I've been preaching meditation, but my practice allows me to stay calm, stay beautiful, and stay in the present moment, not worrying what's going to happen tomorrow. Our mind is constantly either in the past or in the future. So in the past, we always think about, oh, I could have made that extra money. I could have made that extra dollar. But we forget to think, how much do we have in our bank account? Well, do you have enough to satisfy yourself? Do you have enough to put food on the table, to wear clothes? It's more than enough to live a beautiful life. And in the future, when we're always thinking, what will happen tomorrow? Will I get COVID? The fear itself is the disease. The fear itself is the disease. And like they say, as I think, what I think is what I become. So why populate the mind with all the fear that we have? One way of overcoming fear is through discipline. So Sanatana Dharma is also a way of discipline. And that is where yoga comes in as well. So yoga is, the union between the mind, the body, and also the spirit. And they say, when I was in Australia, because I lived there for 20 years as well. And when I lived in Australia, and I'd hear a lot of people say, oh, you're stressed. Okay, practice yoga. It's a beautiful therapy. And practice, it's a very beautiful therapy. They kept using yoga as therapy. And to me, that didn't really sit right, because it's not really a form of therapy. It's actually a way of discipline. So I told them, it's discipline. There's no therapy, but you try it. You try it and you will become a fulfilled human being, and your mind will actually start listening. Your mind will start coordinating with the body, and also you will start listening to your heart more and your gut feeling even more. So when I said and yoga is not really for all ill people, as they say, practice yoga, it's for good for your mental health, it's good for your health. Yes, it is. But it is more beautiful for healthy people to practice yoga, because we believe in prevention rather than reaction. So in the West, it's a lot of reaction things, like they always say. But today, it's a very, very good occasion to celebrate who we are, celebrate our culture, celebrate beautiful things. Because as an example, I can tell you as well why yoga is also great for healthy people. Is that in our ancient times, when in my grandmother's times, in my great-great-grandmother's, my ancestor times, the life expectancy of India was 85 to 90. 85 to 90. And, just like Shri Modi ji, his mother turned 100. Congratulations to her. Just very recently, she turned 100. And my grandmother is in her 90s, 95 now. And you can see that, from the ancient times, they kept their culture, they kept their dharma so intact that they were looking at ways to bring up the entire country rather than individual ways, like what's my bank account, what's my car, what's my thing. When you can think of ways to uplift a community, uplift a whole country, you will find that everyone remains healthy, wise, and wealthy as well. So in this case, what now when British came, they ruled, and when the British left, our life expectancy for Indians was 28 years old. So we went from 85 to 28. Why? Because the environment we were in, we really took a toll on our freedom. Freedom is what Sanatana Dharma is. It's freedom to explore yourself in your oneself, your inner self, and be one with the Lord, be one with the universe, the consciousness. And but today now we are in a much, much better state as a country, and our life expectancy is 65 to 70. So we are getting there. But I just wanted to share that it is so important, no matter where you go, to uphold your culture, uphold who you really are. And I learned that from a young age with my mom and dad, even though I was born in Hong Kong, but they put me through meditation classes, Balvikas, in a very young age. That's where I learned the mantras, the mudras as well, and meditation. It's the beautiful feeling. And then when I went to teach in the prisons, in the Australian prison, that's my first lesson I ever taught. And they said, I just put my hand up because they're looking for volunteers to teach in prison. And something inside me, normally if I think with a logical mind, I would think, am I nuts? Why would I go to prison to teach meditation? But this was something that was very meaningful from the heart, from my inner feeling, the gut feeling. So I knew that it was the right step, and I never looked back. I went in there, and I never treated them as as they say, prisoners. They're human beings. Everyone is a human being. First and foremost, before your status, before anything you do in life, you are a human being, and the way you should be is to uphold Sanatana Dharma. So it was a very fulfilling way of spreading meditation, and I could see their faces going from fear to peacefulness. When you hear grown men talking about how beautiful flowers are, how beautiful they're, feeling grateful about who they are is a different feeling. It shifts your vibration in so many ways. And I just wanted to share that, it's not easy going into, say, like a drug and alcohol rehab center where I've done voluntary work as well. And but one thing for sure, they're very open to learning. They're very open to learning. And that is what all it takes, just to be open to learning and knowing that when you do take your Sanatana Dharma wherever you go in this world, you will be supported and you will be backed in many, many different ways. I just wanted to share that and share that beautiful message that I hope can be maybe a reminder, or maybe can start a new beginning as well. So one thing I talked about is discipline. So the time to meditate, the beautiful time, Brahma Muhurta. That is one way to practice Sanatana Dharma. And I know Brahma Muhurtam they call it the creative hours. And when you can meditate during that time, you open up a whole different vibration. And like Dr. Madhavan even pointed out, your diseases, your disorders, they'll be a thing of the past. All you have to do is just stay with the discipline. And that is another aspect of Sanatana Dharma. So in saying that, I want to just accept any questions that anyone may have on how you can apply it in the modern world, what you can do, but I'm open to any questions for the remaining 10 minutes. No questions, so.
Behalf of organizing committee, we are very proud of your lecture, sir. Because of
Thank you.
thank you. Now the query session, sir. Now all participants, please mute yourself, unmute yourself, then ask the question for today second resource person. Otherwise, raise your hand. We will unmute. Redmi 9A, please ask your query. Mute, unmute yourself.
Speech is very super.
Okay,
Speech, Sanatana Dharma, mean, ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்ததுங்க. அவர்கிட்ட சொல்லுங்க. ரொம்ப நல்லா ஸ்பீச் அழகா இருந்ததுங்க. வாழ்க வளமுடன்ங்க. அவர்கிட்ட சொல்லிடுங்க.
நான் சொல்லிடுறேன். She asked, your lecture is very nice and informative, sir.
Sir, good evening.
Yes.
So what are the major benefits when we waking up in early morning, Brahma Muhurta?
எப்போட்டி போகுது?
சார் பிரசாத் சார் அவர் மியூட் பண்ணிருக்கார்.
Mute பண்ணிருக்காங்களா?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Sir, please, yes, sir, yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for. Yeah, thank you for a very good question. Brahma Muhurtam, when you wake up during that time itself, the first thing you practice is discipline. That is one thing that really, really resonates. And Brahma Muhurtam, it is very good for creative hours. If you're in even college, I remember when sometime during my exams, I was waking up during Brahma Muhurtam and I could remember things so well, and it increases your memory capacity. And depending on the sadhana that you do in the mornings, that is the best time to do it because it invokes creativity. It invokes that passion within you. And it also allows you to, it's so quiet, during the day as well. During that time, it is so quiet. Like say for now, for example, on the streets, so much traffic. There's so much traffic and, you can't get from say one part of the city to the other. It takes you a lot of time. Right. So in the same way, when you wake up during Brahma Muhurtam, it is clear. The path is clear. You can set your intentions. You can meditate, and you will find that the link to yourself and the conscious and the Lord, the one who you believe in, is more stronger because there's less traffic. And when there's so much traffic during your day, it's going to take you more time to get from A to B. And there's too much distraction as well. People are talking to you, mobile phone is ringing, emails are going off, everyone's ringing your doorbell. Yeah, there's so many distractions. Brahma Muhurtam, you are quiet. There's hardly anyone awake. You see, when I wake up here in Hong Kong, Brahma Muhurtam, in the building, there's not even one light on. Everyone's sleeping. So I find it such a beautiful time. And here I'm, near the sea as well. So it's quite very good location. You just sit in fresh air and you spend time with yourself because, for 24 hours, we are given in a day, at least 22 hours, 22 hours, 21 hours are given to so many other people, your work, family, pet as well, whoever it is in your family, all the time is given to others. Those, even 1 hour during Brahma Muhurtam, it's a very, very strong practice. And that's your time to spend with yourself. We all need me time. It also benefits your mental health, your spiritual well-being, and also your physical health. Because if you can practice pranayama during that time as well, and your yoga as well, it really benefits your entire living system as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Very kind of you, sir. Thank you, Ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Last participant, please ask any questions.
Good evening, sir. Very wonderful speech.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's most of the around the world, abroad, and US military also is following the yoga and meditation. And our but my question is, what is your advice to the teenagers? How to create awareness to the teenagers for yoga and meditation?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In Hong Kong itself, like when I first came back from Australia to Hong Kong, it was in 2020. So when COVID was just happening as well, and one of my goals was to actually go to schools in Hong Kong and to teach meditation as a curriculum. So not just one session here and there, then everyone forgets you after 2 days, but I wanted to do it as a regular basis. So make sure it's a program. So now teenagers, the best time to get their attention is maybe in school, right? They're meant to be in school, more attendance. After school, it's quite hard because they have a lot of sports. They like playing sports. They like studying even more. So the best time is to get them in school. And I suggest that, if you're in this position to implement yoga or meditation in school as a subject on its own, as in the mornings, early mornings, or late afternoon, that's okay. But I reckon the schools will really, really see the benefits. So I was very successful here in running a meditation program for high school students in year 12. So they were about 17, 18, and their last year of high school, and they were going to university, wherever, all around the world. And I started this meditation program in one of the English schools here. They really loved it. One of the students he was stuck in England, and he was logging in at 2:30 a.m. in the morning to meditate with us, and he was doing remote learning from UK to Hong Kong. So it just showed, like, after the first session, it really brought a group together. And when there's unity in a group, like Sanatana Dharma, when we practice everything in a group, there's more impact. There's more likelihood that it will continue into their lifestyle. So I feel that schools is where we should really implement this as a regular subject, just like we learn science, we learn history. We should also learn meditation as a subject in school. And we were learning this in the ancient times. After the British left, we all just forgot about it. But now it's time to bring that back. And I know we will see it more likely in schools. And if we can do it here, I'm sure we can do it anywhere in the world.
Great, sir. Super, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Really, one meditation session is not useful. But our Indian government also has enforced in the school education department, also the higher education department, yoga as a compulsory subject.
Beautiful.
But now the effort is going on. So upcoming years, as possible, every colleges and school the must yoga classes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very beautiful. Thank you, Prasath, and thank you to everyone.
Now we conclude.
Sure.
Session.
Good evening, sir. I'm Satyamurthy in Indian Tamil Nadu, nearby Vellore Port. Your session is really awesome. You create more curiosity in the mind and everybody. Because your way of approach and the presentation, your face reaction, everything is very, very, very awesome. Your content also is most impactful. My question was,
sure.
Everybody follows yogasana and physical exercise. The most of the people continuously following the asanas, but some small changes after that leave that yoga, or you live in physical education. Most of the people this method is followed. Why? You know, sir, my question?
So your question
My question,
was,
understand?
Yeah, I sort of understood. So you're asking why we follow one type of yoga, is it? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are many different types. I think yoga is more of a discipline rather than a practice. I think, you know, when we say there's hatha yoga, there's so many different other types of kriya yoga, karma yoga. There's so many different types of yoga, but essentially it is all discipline. It is all a way of discipline, a way of life, rather than, you know, anything to do with exercise or physical. I think it's more how you are as a person. How you are as a person. Are you one? Are you in union with the mind, union with the body? And do you know yourself essentially more? Do you know what your purpose is here? And that is the essential gift of yoga. Yoga can open up so many different dimensions for you. It can open up many different ways of living your life path. And when you start practicing yoga, you really forget about all the noise outside. You really learn to accept yourself fully first, and the way you are created, right? And because in this world we have a lot of expectations. Sometimes, you know, we have to get this job, we have to get that salary, we have to marry, we have to get kids, but not everyone is meant to live that way. And that is the beautiful thing about freedom. That's the beautiful thing about Sanatana Dharma, is to know yourself and to know. And when you practice yoga on a daily basis as a discipline, that is when you start opening up to your true self, and you will able to react in many different ways. And even if it's COVID or whatever the health issue, you won't really be living in fear. You will actually open up to the world, and the world will open up to you as well. See, like just last week, I give you an example. I wanted to speak on International Yoga Day, and usually I speak, and I went here in Hong Kong as well. But this year I thought, oh, I want to do something different. I want to do something completely that I haven't done before. I'm not sure who I will be speaking to. I'm not sure how it will happen. Then the next, I just put the intention out there that I want to speak. And while I was practicing my sadhana, the morning sadhana, which is a way of yoga as well, I just put it out there that I really want to speak on this beautiful day, to pay respects to everyone and to actually share something from the heart. And today was beautifully done. And the next day I thought, wow, this is happening. I'm speaking to, I've never met any of you, but I feel like we all know each other already. We all are linked. We all are brought together due to yoga and to celebrate yoga in a beautiful way. So yeah, I say that yoga, you don't have to follow just one type of yoga. Just practice however you can, whatever suits you. And there you will find your life opening up as well.
Thank you. Last, Korima, please ask. Please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Last, only one person.
Thank you, amazing committee. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I live in Canada, Vancouver, Canada, British Columbia.
Hello.
I am, yes, sir. So glad to listen to you. It was very, very valuable session. I'm so glad that I had the privilege and opportunity to listen to you today's session.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am a mother of 3 adult children who are working, and they have families, and they have so involved in their work, and so it's a stressful life. Mentally, physically, they are so stressed out. And I know very well the things you said about meditation, and I myself is involved with Manavalakale Yoga with Vedatri Maharishi for more than 30 years now. But I couldn't help my children. I couldn't ask them how. I couldn't introduce them meditation. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you do you have any centers in Canada or in US? How do we contact you? Can we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can share my email address, and I normally hold online Zoom sessions. So for also
Wonderful.
people, yeah. So I have a center here in Hong Kong, and also being online is technology is a beautiful gift as well. So I normally do these sessions online through Zoom. So I can share my contact with Gayatri Ji and Dr. Prasath, and then they can share it with everyone, hopefully, and we can connect then, Saroma. But Saroma, I just want to say that I feel from your voice, from the way you are an inspiration, a true inspiration to not just your family, but to everyone around you. And wherever you go, I think you are a shining light. I can tell from your voice as well. And I just feel that, you are being the change you want to see in the world. Our dear Gandhiji also said, be the change you want to see in the world. You are an example of that. And I can clearly see that. So, virtual hug to you, and namaskaram to you as well. You are an inspiration. So never forget that.
Thank you, sir. Same thing. I wanted to tell you the same thing. You are the inspiration. Yeah. For all of us. So could you kindly share the link in the chat box, sir?
Yes, sure. I can just send it now.
We post it, ma'am. Sir, number also put it in the chat box. Please collect the number and ask any further references. So before,
okay. Yes, so I will check the chat box.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Ma'am already put in the chat box. Sir also put in the chat box his email.
Thank you.
You can email or WhatsApp me anytime, and we can take it from there. But I really want to say thank you to Dr. Prasath and Gayatri Ji and everyone there for listening, and hope this time was well spent. I can't buy back time for you, but hopefully it was well spent.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Before vote of thanks for 8th International Yoga Day program. But the second session is really fruitful session because so many participants put in the chat box a positive response. So before the vote of thanks, I say that Prague story. Our resource person says that in Tamil, ஒரு கிணத்து தவளை, so கிணத்துல தவளை அந்த பிராக் வந்து living in the one wall well. So but in கடல்ல வாசிக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு தவளை வருது. அங்க வந்துட்டு என்ன பண்ணுது அப்படின்னா, அந்த கிணத்து தவளையை பார்த்துட்டு, இதுதான் உலகம் இல்ல, நீ இந்த கிணத்தவளை விட்டு வெளியே வா. பட் நம்ம உலகம்ன்றது ஒரு பறந்து விரிந்தது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அது நிறைய உதாரணங்கள் சொல்லுது. ஆனா அந்த கிணத்து தவளை they don't accept it. But in my places is only the biggest place அப்படின்னு அது சொல்லிட்டே இருக்குது. ஆனா பட் வந்து he explain further but they don't accept it. In the same way we are living. We are among themselves, we fencing it. ஒரு வலையை நம்ம பின்னி வச்சிருக்கோம், அந்த வலையை விட்டு வெளியில. பட் இன் சனாதன தர்மா மெயின்லி சேஸ் தட் ஃப்ரீடம். ஸோ இந்த ஸ்டோரி வந்து நம்மளுக்கு ரொம்ப யூஸ்ஃபுல்லான ஒரு ஸ்டோரி. அந்த அடிப்படையில now I request டாக்டர் once again I would congratulations and also our thanks behalf of our organizing side. So now I request Joint Secretary Gunasekaran to give formal vote of thanks. Then afterwards, Ulaga Nala Valthu, then we will conclude. Okay, thank you. Gunasekaran sir. குணசேகரன் சார் நீங்க மீட் பண்ண சார் மீட் ஆயிருக்கோங்க, இது அன்மியூட் பண்ணிக்க.
கேக்குதுங்களா?
கேக்குறியா? ஆனா ஒரு வாய்ஸ் பின்னாடி ஒரு சவுண்ட் வருதியா? நான் எல்லாத்தையுமே அட்மிட் பண்ணிட்டேன். பட் உங்க இதுல இருந்தா வாய்ஸ் வருது, சவுண்ட் வருது.
உங்க ஹெட்செட்டை ரிமூவ் பண்ணுங்க.
உங்க ஹெட்செட்டை ரிமூவ் பண்ணுங்க. நான் ஓகே. பேசலாம்.
Good evening, sir.
Okay.
Dino Hira, sir. Good evening. Your session is wonderful, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Indian Yoga Association, Tamil Nadu Chapter, Government Arts College, Paramukudi, Meenakshi Academy of Higher Education and Research, Chennai, Tamil Nadu Professionally Qualified Registered Yoga Teacher Welfare Association, Erode மற்றும் ராமநாதபுரம் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட், மற்றும் Awareness School of Yoga, Sports, Agri, Nature, Education and Research Foundation, பரமக்குடி, ஆரோக்கியம் ஆனந்தம் யோகா எஜுகேஷன் அண்ட் ட்ரைனிங் சென்டர், ஈரோடு இணைந்து நடத்தக்கூடிய, அதாவது இணைந்து வெற்றிகரமாக 21 நாள் நடத்திய இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு இறுதி நாளான இன்று, அதாவது மிகச் சிறப்பான தலைப்பிலே நமது மதிப்பிற்கும் மரியாதைக்கும் முறை தமிழ்நாடு தொழில்முறை தகுதி பதிவு பெற்ற யோகா ஆசிரியர் நலச்சங்கத்தினுடைய தலைவருமான, எங்களுக்கு அவ்வப்போது வழிகாட்டி கொண்டிருக்கின்ற குருவுமான டாக்டர் எம் மாதவன் ஐயா B.A.M.S அவர்களுக்கு அனைத்து யோகா மையத்தின் சார்பாக முதலில் நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறேன். ஐயா அவர்கள் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சி துவக்கத்திலே துவக்க உரை நிகழ்த்தி இறுதியாக மிக சிறப்பாக, அதாவது வெற்றிகரமாக இறுதி நிகழ்ச்சியும் வெற்றிகரமாக நிகழ்த்தி கொடுத்தாங்க. அதுக்கு அனைத்து யோகா மையத்தின் சார்பாகவும் அனைத்து ஆசிரியர்கள் சார்பாகவும் நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறோம். மற்றும் இன்றைய அடுத்த செஷன் டினோ ஹீரா, அதாவது ஹாங்காங்ல இருந்து நமக்காக மிகச் சிறப்பா எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. அவங்களுக்கும் இந்தியன் யோகா அசோசியேஷன் தமிழ்நாடு சாப்டர், கவர்மெண்ட் ஆர்ட்ஸ் காலேஜ் பரமக்குடி, மீனாட்சி அகாடமி ஆஃப் ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன் அண்ட் ரிசர்ச் சென்னை, அவேர்னஸ் ஸ்கூல் ஆஃப் யோகா, ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ், அக்ரி, நேச்சர், எஜுகேஷன் அண்ட் ரிசர்ச் ஃபவுண்டேஷன் பரமக்குடி, ஆரோக்கியம் ஆனந்தம் யோகா எஜுகேஷன் சென்டர் ஈரோடு சார்பாக நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறோம். அடுத்ததாக இந்த 21 நிகழ்ச்சியில் முதல் நாளிலே, அதாவது நமக்காக மிகச் சிறப்பா, துவக்க நாள்ல நமக்காக டாக்டர் ஆர் இளங்கோவன் ஐயா மிகச் சிறப்பா எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. அவர்களுக்கும் இன்றைக்கு நம்ம நன்றியை தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். அடுத்ததாக 2வது நாள் 2ஆம் தேதி N.A. பெருமாள் ஐயா, டாக்டர் N.A. பெருமாள் ஐயா, வைஸ் பிரசிடென்ட் ஆஃப் ஆலியார் WCSC. அடுத்த 3ஆம் நாள் அன்று யோக திலகம் டாக்டர் மீனா ராமநாதன் அவங்களும் எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. 4வது நாள் டாக்டர் வள்ளிமுருகன் சார் PhD பாரதிய யூனிவர்சிட்டியில இருந்து எடுத்தாங்க. 5வது நாளாக டாக்டர் ஜென்சி சுந்தரன் அவங்க SVSால இருந்து எடுத்தாங்க. அடுத்து 6வது நாள் நமக்காக மிக சிறப்பா எடுத்து கொடுத்த ஒரு தலைப்பு டாக்டர் டி ருக்மணி அம்மா அவங்க எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. அவங்களுக்கும் இந்த நேரத்துல நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். அடுத்ததாக நடராஜன் சார், நம்ம எந்த நேரத்துல கூப்பிட்டாலும் நமக்காக ப்ரோக்ராம் பண்ணி கொடுக்கிற அளவுக்கு இருக்கிற பேராசிரியர் டாக்டர் S. நடராஜன் அவர்களுக்கும் நன்றியை தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். அடுத்ததா 8வது நாளான இன்று M. தினேஸ்வரன், அதாவது என்ன தலைப்பு அப்படின்னா, யோகா பர்ஸ்பெக்டிவ் ஆஃப் தமிழ் லிட்டரேச்சர், தமிழ் இலக்கியத்தில் யோகம் அப்படிங்கிற தலைப்புல ஒரு வித்தியாசமான தலைப்புல எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. அவங்களுக்கும் நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். அடுத்ததா 9ஆம் தேதி டாக்டர் S. ஜெயபிரகாஷ் ஐயா அவங்க யோகாலஜி அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு தலைப்புல எடுத்தாங்க. அது அற்புதமா இருந்துச்சு. அடுத்தது 10ஆம் தேதி டாக்டர் CV ஜெயந்தி மேடம் அவங்க நமக்காக எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. 11ஆம் தேதி டாக்டர் S. பிரகதீஸ்வரன் ஐயா அவங்களும் எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. 12ஆம் தேதி டாக்டர் A. துரை முருகன் சார் எடுத்தாங்க திருச்சியில இருந்து. 13ஆம் தேதி மிக அற்புதமான தலைப்பு, அதாவது தெரபெட்டிக் யோகா அப்படிங்கிற தலைப்புல டாக்டர் N. சந்திரசேகரன் MBBS சென்னை அவங்க எடுத்தாங்க. அவங்களுக்கு இந்த நேரத்தில் நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். அடுத்து 14ஆம் தேதி கே விபாஸ் ஐயா, அதாவது எக்ஸல் மெடிக்கல் காலேஜ் ஃபார் நேச்சுரோபதி அண்ட் யோகா அதுல பிரின்சிபலா இருக்கிறவங்க அவங்க எடுத்தாங்க. அடுத்ததா 15ஆம் தேதி நமக்காக எடுத்து கொடுத்த டாக்டர் யு ஸ்ரீகுமார் PhD அவங்க எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. அவருக்கும் இந்த நேரத்தில் நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். 16ஆம் தேதி அண்ணாதுரை ஐயா எடுத்தாங்க. அதாவது மீனாட்சி ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன் அண்ட் அகாடமி அதுல இருந்து வந்து எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. அடுத்ததா 17ஆம் தேதி மிகச் சிறப்பான தலைப்பிலே நம்ம இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை இயக்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கின்ற மதிப்பிற்கும் மரியாதைக்கும் உரிய டாக்டர் S.Prasath ஐயா எடுத்தாங்க 17ஆம் தேதி. 18ஆம் தேதி யோகரத்னா டாக்டர் டி ஊர்மிளா அவங்களும் எடுத்தாங்க. 19ஆம் தேதி நமக்காக அதாவது ரஷ்யால இருந்து மமதா மாயி ஆர்யா அவங்க எடுத்தாங்க. அவங்களுக்கு இந்த நேரத்தில் நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். மேத்யூ டி சயின்டிஸ்ட் அதாவது கிரீஸ்ல இருந்து அவங்க எடுத்தாங்க. அவங்களுக்கும் நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம், தேங்க்ஸ் பண்ணிக்கிறோம். 20ஆம் தேதி டாக்டர் டி தங்கமணி ஐயா வந்து நமக்காக எடுத்தாங்க. ஸ்ரீ ராமகிருஷ்ணா மிஷன் வித்யாலயா மாருதி காலேஜ் ஆஃப் பிசிக்கல் எஜுகேஷன் கோயம்புத்தூர் அவங்க எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க. இந்த 20 நாளும் மிகச் சிறப்பான தலைப்பு எடுத்தாங்க. இன்னைக்கு நமக்காக மிகச் சிறப்பான தலைப்பு ஐயா மாதவன் ஐயா எடுத்தாங்க. மாதவன் ஐயா வந்து நம்ம தமிழ்நாடு ப்ரொஃபஷனலி குவாலிஃபைடு ரெஜிஸ்டர்டு யோகா டீச்சர் வெல்ஃபேர் அசோசியேஷனுடைய தலைவர். மிகச் சிறப்பாக அற்புதமாக இந்த சங்கத்தை இயக்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கிறார். அவருடைய அனுமதியின் பேர்ல இந்த 21 நாள் நிகழ்ச்சி தொடர்ந்து நடத்திக்கிட்டு இருக்கிறோம். இந்த 21 நாள் நிகழ்ச்சிக்கும் தொடர்ந்து ஆதரவு தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டிருக்கின்ற, உலகெங்கிலும் ஆதரவு தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டிருக்கின்ற அனைத்து யோகா ஆசிரியர் பெருமக்களுக்கும் யோகா பேராசிரியர்களுக்கும் இந்த நேரத்துல நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். அடுத்ததா இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு 21 நாள் நிகழ்ச்சிக்கும் மிகச்சிறப்பா அதாவது சீஃப் கெஸ்ட் இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்ண திருமதி ஆர் காயத்ரி ஆரோக்கியமானந்தம் யோகா எஜுகேஷன் ட்ரைனிங் சென்டர் டைரக்டர் அவர்களுக்கும் நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். அடுத்தபடியா இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை உலகங்களும் எடுத்துக்கொண்டு சென்று கொண்டிருக்கின்ற அதாவது இணையத்தில் பதிவிட்டு கொண்டு இருக்கின்ற பொறியாளர் காந்திராஜ் அவர்களுக்கும் இந்த நேரத்துல அனைத்து யோகா மையத்தின் சார்பாக நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். அதற்கு மேலாக இந்த 21 நிகழ்ச்சியிலையும் மிக அற்புதமாக அதாவது எல்லா நாளும் தொடர்ந்து பேராசிரியரோட கருத்துக்களை உள்வாங்கி கொண்டு இந்த கருத்துக்களை வந்து மக்களுக்காக நல திட்டங்களுக்காக வெளி சென்று கொண்டிருக்கின்ற அனைத்து யோகா ஆசிரியர்களுக்கும் மாணவர்களுக்கும் மற்றும் பேராசிரியர்கள் அனைவருக்கும் கவர்மெண்ட் ஆர்ட்ஸ் காலேஜ் பரமக்குடி மற்றும் இந்தியன் யோகா அசோசியேஷன் தமிழ்நாடு சாப்டர் மீனாட்சி அகாடமி ஹையர் எஜுகேஷன் அண்ட் ட்ரைனிங் சென்டர் சென்னை அண்ட் அவேர்னஸ் ஸ்கூல் ஆஃப் யோகா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் அக்ரி நேச்சர் எஜுகேஷன் அண்ட் ரிசர்ச் ட்ரைனிங் ஃபவுண்டேஷன் பரமக்குடி ஆரோக்கியமானந்தம் யோகா எஜுகேஷன் அண்ட் ட்ரைனிங் சென்டர் ஈரோடு சார்பாக நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறோம். இது போன்ற நல்ல நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு முழு ஆதரவு நல்கி கொண்டிருக்கின்ற அனைத்து யோகா ஆசிரியர் பெருமக்களுக்கும் அனைத்து யோகா மையத்தின் சார்பாக நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறோம். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.